What's up, Financial Zen Masters? Okay, so we are knee deep into how to generate passive income from your savings on an ongoing sustainable basis. Today, I'm going to explain how to refill your living expense bucket. But first, welcome to the Financial Zen channel, where the big question is, how can you, a super successful, hardworking overachiever with kids at home and a mortgage to pay, how can you quit your 9-to-5 grind to go pursue your passion while still providing for your family? That's the question. I got your answers. I'm Rick Valenzi, a certified financial planner, the founder of Financial Zen and your guide. Okay, so I'm giving you the inside scoop on how to generate passive income from your portfolio on an ongoing basis. This is how we do it we've done it for our retirees. This is how we do it for all our Financial Zen members that retire nice and early. This is how we do things. Okay, so for day one, we described, what did we do day one? The problems with the current system, with the 4% rule, which is silliness. Just doesn't work for many reasons. Yesterday, we talked about how you do your money, right? 2 buckets, living expense bucket, long-term bucket, right? And today, I'm going to tell you how these two coordinate. So, within your safe bucket, what you do is you buy a bunch of what's called fixed income investments. So that's a fancy term. Think of, it's not kind of like a CD. Have you ever invested in a certificate of deposit at the bank? If you have, even if you haven't, you probably know how they work. So how a CD investment works is you give the bank your money, right? When you invest in a CD, you get a certificate of deposit, meaning they have your money. They're going to pay you a certain amount of interest every year. And then at a predetermined point in the future, called a maturity date, that CD matures and you get your principal back, right? So you give them $1,000, they pay you, rates these days like 2%, right? So you earn $2 a year for 3, and then it matures in 3 years and you get your $1,000 back. Okay. So that's how you fill your bucket one. Now, we don't actually use CDs because CDs typically don't go out 10 years, so you can't actually do it. Plus, CD rates are terrible, or kind of the worst that you can get. So we actually invest in bonds, which work the exact same way that CDs do, except instead of lending your money to the bank, when you invest in a bond, you lend your money to a company or a government body. They pay you interest for so many years, and then at a predetermined point in the future, you get your money back. Now, the magic of this is the way you structure your living expense bucket is you buy bonds that mature in equal amounts each year for the next 10 years, right? One that matures next year, one that matures the year after that, right? 2023, 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, until you get to 2031. And the amount that you invest in each one is whatever your living expenses are right now. So if you're spending $100,000 a year, you're going to have $1 million in bonds, right? $100,000 per year for the next 10 years, $1 million in bonds. Okay, so does that make sense? And then when those mature, as you can probably suspect, when those mature, that's what you end up living off of. Now, we're going to drill down just a little bit deeper. The first 2 years, you always want to have 2 years worth of cash. So your first 2 years, if you spend $100,000 a year, you're gonna have $200,000 just in cash in a high yield savings account, like I've detailed before. Ally Savings is great for that. And then you're gonna have 8 years of bonds on top of that. Does that make sense? So you still have 10 years worth of living expenses, but it just changes just a little bit. And the reason for that is when you invest in bonds, there's a very small chance, but there is a chance that the bonds default, that you don't get your money, that you don't get paid, that they don't pay your interest or what have you. So things can happen. So you want a 2-year cushion just in case something like that happens to the bonds that you own. And so right now, if you're gonna do this tomorrow, you take, whatever your living expenses are, you multiply that by 10, you put 2 years in cash, set aside in cash, that's what you live off of now, and then you put 8 years in bonds on top of that, right? Maturing in those amounts. How much further should we go? One last point on the living expense bucket is there's inflation, right? That $100,000 that you're spending today is not the same as $100,000 10 years from now, right? And so within the bonds, the reason that we invest in bonds is because they're going to pay you more interest than a CD at a bank or your savings account. And the interest that you earn in those bonds is going to work to help buffer the inflation, right? So as your expenses rise with inflation, you're going to have just a little bit more from the interest in the bonds that you can then spend on an annual basis. And then over time, you can also just increase the maturity values, which we'll talk about tomorrow, as those bonds mature, as you replace them. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too much. This is pretty sophisticated stuff. So, if you didn't get it the first swipe, don't be afraid to circle back, hit rewind, and watch it again, in slow motion. And leave some comments. Do you have any questions? Let me know. Let me know if any thoughts popped up. Let me know if you had any aha moments. And thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see you tomorrow.